Jank Brew is brought to you by Abuelo's Awakening. If this isn't a fun magic card, I don't know what is. Abuelo's Awakening is white sorcery. Turn target artifact or non-aura enchantment card from your graveyard to the battlefield. X additional +1/+1 counters on it. It is a 1/1 spirit creature with flying in addition to other types. Clearly in this deck, what we'll be trying to do is deposit big, ugly things into our graveyard that Abuelo's Awakening can reawaken. So we'll start with those, our payoffs for Abuelo's Awakening. It's worth noting that Sanctuary Warden cannot be targeted by Abuelo's Awakening, and so it's more the top end of our curve. Arguably could be cut, but this is a good magic card that does some things for us, and it also can be reanimated by Portal to Phyrexia, which we would rather have in play than a Sanctuary Warden most of the time. So skip over Sanctuary Warden as far as payoffs for Abuelo's Awakening concerned. Just helps us to draw cards and have some mid to late game action. Combat Thresher is a fun one. We could easily move Combat Thresher over to the 3 mana slot because often we're going to be casting it for its prototype. Cost, drawing a card, letting it soak up some damage, die, wind up in our graveyard so we can do it all over again, noting that when Abuelo's Awakening brings it back, it's a 1/1 with those counters on it, and it'll be flying. So it'll have some evasion when it comes back in, draws a card, which is nice. Threefold Thunderhulk, certainly the most fun payoff we have for Abuelo's Awakening, in that when it enters the battlefield, it'll have 3 additional +1/+1 counters on it, beyond any that we get from Abuelo's Awakening. Sometimes this can be just ridiculous. And whenever Threefold Thunderhulk enters the battlefield or attacks, will create a number of 1/1 colorless gnome artifact creature tokens equal to its power. So sometimes you can get, a 10/10 Threefold Thunderhulk and 10 gnome artifact creature tokens, which is pretty fun. You can also pay 2 to sacrifice another artifact and put a +1/+1 counter on Threefold Thunderhulk. Doesn't happen a ton unless you're trying to win with that flying version that Abuelo's Awakening brought back for you, but still just a lot of fun. Cityscape Leveler, another payoff. Noting that it does not trigger upon entering the battlefield. So you need to cast this in order to get its initial destroy up to 1 target non-land permanent. Its controller creates a tapped Power Stone token trigger. But it's not too uncommon that we can cast a Cityscape Leveler, especially when you see the rest of the deck. But often it finds its way into the bin, and we're hoping that just a large flying creature with that attack ability is sufficient. But another card that could arguably be considered to be cut, there are other perhaps more interesting payoffs. So if you're a jank brewer like we are here, just something to consider. So those are most of our payoffs. It's worth noting that we can bring back all sorts of little fun things like a Spirited Companion, an enchantment creature that will draw us a card when it enters. We can bring back Spring-Loaded Sawblades to deal damage to a tapped creature when it enters the battlefield. Again, all with Abuelo's Awakening. We can bring back a Collector's Vault if we really want. Not terribly common, but it's there for us. Restoration of Eiganjo can be returned off of Abuelo's Awakening. And most of these cards that we've been looking at here, including especially Raffine's Informant, I think it's sort of like the most necessary engine of the card. Conniving, allowing you to dump your portals, your Cityscape Levelers, your Threefold Thunderhulks, etc., into the yard early so they can be reanimated. Between Raffine's Informant and Collector's Vault, those are your early means of dumping cards. You also have Restoration of Eiganjo, which helps you continue to hit land drops, which is important for this deck. But it also allows you to dump some of your payoffs and get some value out of it by returning a Raffine's Informant or returning a Spirited Companion, things of that nature. So they all work really well together. Celestus is kind of your last-ditch effort to dump important cards into the yard and stay alive, do some mana ramping at the same time. We have a handful of not associated with the jankiness combos here in the form of Lay Down Arms, exile target creature with mana value equal to or less than the number of planes you control. Its controller gains 3 life. This is just a edge against early decks. We just don't want to die. Most of the time, later game, we're bigger than most of the decks. There are some exceptions, of course, but Lay Down Arms is just a one-of here. Clay-Fired Bricks is a one-of. Of course, it plays with the theme, but it's somewhat akin to, I can't remember the name of the card, I never can, but there's a 1/1 creature that essentially does the same thing. You can go get a basic plains, put it into your hand. But you don't get into 2 life, and it's not an artifact or enchantment, so it doesn't combo with Abuelo's Awakening. We've got a single copy of Loran of the Third Path, definitely a thing that could be cut, but it can be brought back off of Portal of Phyrexia, and we don't have any other action in this deck to remove our opponent's artifacts or enchantments. So I thought it was worth a slot just for fun. Depopulate is in here as a 2 of. Often aggressive decks without something like Depopulate would be too fast for us. So Wandering Emperor, for somewhat the same reason, we're going to often try to use that exile tapped creature ability, gaining the 2 life. And then last but not least, we have a copy of the Mightstone and Weakstone, which can come back off of Abuelo's Awakening, draw a couple of cards, remove a creature. And it also helps ramp us into potentially being able to cast cards like Combat Thresher, Threefold Thunderhulk, Cityscape Leveler, and Portal to Phyrexia. Lands, we're only running 22 lands in this deck because most of these early plays are going to go fetch us some more. So we just want more gas. And that is it for deck tech. Let's get into some action.